Hey guys. Okay, so it's time to finally take a look at, well, not in the game yet, but a big wall of text on the left. I'm gonna help you guys understand what that text means, how you can use it, and maybe get ready for when not maybe hits your barracks and probably hits your defense teams, I'm guessing. Enjoy the video.
Let the lesson begin.
Hi guys, Akariss here, bringing you another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video is going to talk about the 7th slot on defense. It's a bit overdue, but I feel it is still a necessary knowledge that you should know for tackling both teams on offense, like you know what happens, and on defense for formulating good defense teams. Hopefully this video inspires you, or at least gets you the knowledge you need to make your AR experience much easier, more comfier, whatever you want out of it. First and foremost, what we got to talk about is that effect. It's pretty much the same effect as the original Anima heroes like Duma and such, and we're going to break it down, and I'm going to show you a live preview of that effect in action. Essentially, defense teams should try to use a 7th slot if possible, like at least a single copy of like Syros, and probably not in the future. My defense team actually doesn't utilize the 7 slot AI mechanic. Again, we'll go into full detail for this. If you want to see my defense team in action and fully, explained, plus its replays, that's all going to be above me. I have a playlist for it, and I have a video analyzing my defense. You honestly don't even need a 7 slot or a Syros to make my defense work, so I use it on both seasons. But I do want to at least get you guys thinking how you can make your own really effective defense or play into some of these defenses that are very, I don't want to say very common, but at least common enough that you should know what happens. So, defense mythics. Essentially, you want 2. You want 2 on your defense team in the regular slots. No more. You don't actually want to be like 3 in the first 6 slots. The 7th slot can be occupied. You can barely see it in the image there behind the text, but essentially the 7th slot should be occupied by either a defense mythic or a random extra unit. I personally like the mythic being in the 7th slot if you don't utilize the 7th slot AI, because you don't get the extra lift loss reduction in that slot, and it doesn't count as a bonus defense mythic according to the bonus rules, but it gives you an additional blessing in terms of the boosts. The HP and the attack from Syros right now is given to your other units, which is amazing. So you effectively can have plus 15 HP and a bunch of extra stats if you just put like the mythic in the 7th slot. But that may not tailor to all defenses, because you might want to use that 7th slot for AI mechanics, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. So first up, if you just want to keep reviewing the text, it's going to be right under me. I know it's a lot to ingest, but essentially you want to use defense mythics. They do help you. Let's start off by looking at my team. The 7th slot on my team is Syros, and she actually is on the far right there on purpose. That is to avoid getting danced by my dancers. I don't want her getting danced because, as we'll see in a moment later on, that the 7th slot is essentially, the unit there is turned off. You see these cross-chain effects, and your dancers will try to dance them if possible, but by using Lyn in that position, I can block off my dancers from seeing that, from trying to dance her, because I don't want them dancing her, and I'd rather that they dance other units on my team. Again, if my team is interesting to you, or you want to see the replays, how it works in full detail, go watch the video analyzing that from a couple of days ago and my replay playlist. But anyways, my team doesn't utilize it. I'll show you later some examples of it. As I mentioned earlier, you want 2 defense mythics at least in the first 6 slots, but not a 3rd, because it does mess up your defense lift loss. That 7th slot should be either an extra unit of your choosing, but Syros would have to be in the first 6 in the case here, just because she activates that slot, and it has to be blessed as Anima, or again, the 7th mythic itself, so that you can give extra stats to your team, which is what I'm doing. So again, that's summarized here. These are the question mark text. If you actually click it yourself, right there, that question mark, that's where all this information was before we even had Syros as an option. That's kind of where we were hypothetically like theorizing what would happen, but we have it in details now, and it's important to go over it. So yeah, that's pretty much what it is. You use the defense mythic either in the first 6 slots or the 7th slot, and you can use that 7th slot. That's essentially what that text says. and it must be either the legendary heroes that are in season, or blessed heroes, or the Mythic itself. Okay, so here's where the interesting mechanics come in, because it's obviously not something we've had before. Essentially, if no one on your team, your defensive team, has died, or no one on the enemy's defensive team has died, then that unit in that special 7 slot gets like a cross-chain effect, we'll see it later, and it will turn off. That unit will not act, but it can still get danced. So it's essentially like ending its turn. That unit just like double taps and waits. That's essentially what happens. There's a lot of interesting things that involve that, by the way, like how you can really take advantage of an interaction like that. But there's also ways for players to play into that and take advantage of it. But essentially, as long as nothing has died at the beginning of the turn, that unit waits, and then things happen. Okay, and it doesn't affect the lift decrease limit. As I mentioned, because it's in that 7 slot, it doesn't count as like your main 6 units, therefore it doesn't reduce your lift loss any further, and it also doesn't count as a bonus mythic hero in that 7 slot. It's like a special extra slot, essentially. So make sure that your bonus defense mythics are in your first 6 slots, and that includes Cyros during Cyros week. And then on the 7th, you put an auxiliary unit and maybe a unit you want to interact with all this AI. Alright guys, so this is an example of a team that could use a 7th slot. It's not by any means a meta team, but I want to really show you guys a visual on how this could potentially trap you, or how you could use it to trap someone else on defense design. So pretty much think of this as like a beast dragon team, and they have really, it looks like they don't have much danger area. You have space to work with and set up. That's the trap, of course. And the dancers will really show you what kind of can happen with 7 slot. So, think the armors have save, think like the flying beasts have the range to snipe something, think like that. That's what you can see. But essentially, the 7 slot here is on Cyros, and that means at the beginning of the turn, as long as none of those units on the enemy team are dead, the dancer is going to try to dance. Now, Mira cannot, without using, let's say, aerobatics. So if we click on her, she doesn't have aerobatics, but she has flyer formation. So this means that she can't dance Cyros, at least without, let's say, Duma moving forward. And over here, we know that Rayson right now visually doesn't look like he can dance Cyros, but because he can transform and get that additional movement, he will. And because of that, you'll see him dance Cyros, and then that's where the interesting stuff happens. This team will activate Cyros, but because Rayson is now here in this position and transform, he has a new danger area that it would extend all the way down here to where this unit is, where Altina is. And on this whole area here, which shows no danger area, would definitely be threatened as well. And therefore, any unit that could rally or protect Rayson will choose to do so. So this is covered in like a full AI guide. In fact, it's somewhat like a rally trap, but again, if you want to see like full text details, I will link the AI guide below. That's done by Verve, and I have other AI guides if you want to touch on that stuff. But essentially, Rayson's new position pose dance is going to threaten these spaces, all of these new spaces here, and because of that, a unit with a rally can follow up to that. And that's why something like Mira has flyer formation here. So let's say Naysala now chooses to rally Rayson because Rayson can reach Altina, and Mira will now dance the rally trap. And now you have Naysala who can essentially reach here. So for the unsuspecting person, someone who just like says, "Oh yeah, I'm safe, no danger at all," they could just end turn here and look what happens. Not goodness. That's for sure. Not a good thing. So the 7th unit turns off. Rayson dances, but because Rayson now reaches Altina, he goes in, gets the rally off, and boom, you just lost your Regan from that position, which otherwise was pretty unsuspecting. And stuff like this can even get even more complicated. Like let's say Koenig is here, wasn't running a save, or he's just kind of useless. You could even incorporate maybe another dancer to, you know, dance Tibarn, who now can essentially reach all the way down here to Altina. Or if the Gale Force went off on Naysala, he could potentially kill another unit. So you see how 7th slots can be used to kind of threaten or at least trap a person who's unsuspecting. But that doesn't mean that a 7 trap is something you should always be afraid of. It has its weaknesses like always. So, I mean, if you look at this team specifically, you can just hit Rayson with the Bridal Fjorm, and now he cannot dance Zeros, and because Mira is not running aerobatics, you know, she can't dance Zeros either, and therefore you're going to keep your safety. But one thing, and I want to make this very clear, is that hitting Zeros with isolation does not prevent her from getting dance, because as I mentioned earlier, that 7th unit ends turn. It like waits. It doesn't move, and therefore all debuffs come off, including isolation. So if you were to try to, you know, end with Bridal Fjorm here and think that that's going to work, it's not going to work. The unit will turn off, debuff comes off, same situation happens, and boom, you've lost your unit. So don't fall into that trap. And make sure that if you can isolate something, you're isolating something that can actually get isolated. So yeah, guys, I hope that kind of clears up the 7th slot. If we start getting, you know, let's say Not from earlier, you know, if she starts showing up and has Pathfinder, things are going to get a bit ridiculous on the 7th slot. I kind of appreciate that. I like mechanics like this personally. Let me know what you guys think. Have you been using Zeros? Did you spark Zeros on Hero Rises? Are you maybe planning to pick up Zeros? I think she comes back soon, and maybe not. Who knows? Yeah, let me know what you guys think. If this video helped you, please let me know in the comments. Your comments do help a lot. It gets me thinking. It also gives me some ideas for future videos like this one. And yeah, give video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. Thank you guys if you like. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Much love. Peace.
It's over.